I don't know. It won't be a week and we'll be sitting out there again.
Hey, look at that. I got Karn twice. No, no. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order for the City of Saratoga Springs, Tuesday, May 16th at 6 p.m. Present tonight, we have Councilman Karn, Councilman Wilden, Councilman Porter, Councilman McComber is joining us electronically this evening, and Councilman Podeska has been excused. So we do have a quorum. I've asked Councilman Porter to lead us in our invocation and Councilman Karn to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for this opportunity for us to gather together this evening to conduct the business of our city and to take into deliberation the items before us. And we ask thee to please bless us with the discernment to make decisions which will benefit the citizens of Saratoga Springs today and into the future. We ask thee to please watch over those that serve us in the public safety sector, that they will be watched over and protected as they go about their business, protecting our citizens. And we ask thee to please bless men and women serving in uniform, both at home and abroad, that they will be watched over as they protect our freedoms. We say these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public input. Time has been set aside for the public to express ideas, concerns, and comments for subject matters not listed on the agenda. If you're here for the public hearing tonight, please hold your comments for that. Please be respectful in your comments. Please avoid repetitive comments, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. If you're here, please come up to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Is anybody here for public input this evening?
I'm kind of surprised I'm the only person here. My name is Dennis Harper. And what else did you need?
Address for the record.
3932 South Turnbuckle Road in Saratoga Springs. And the reason why I came tonight is I've been looking at our concept in regards to the city and planting trees. And as I was driving in, I noticed that I can't tell you how many thousands of dollars worth of trees have been planted and are now dead. I know out in the Harbor Bay area, almost every single one of those trees is dead. So I think, especially since we're looking at still in a drought situation, and that the state currently is in the process of cutting trees down because they are a major waster of water, I think that the city might consider changing ordinances to where they do not require trees to be planted. Thank you.
Thank you. Is anybody else here for public input? Okay, I will close the public input at this time. Go on to reports. Are there any reports from the council? Okay, just to report back to the council, the North County Mayor's Group met Friday. We met with the Alpine School District, and Julie King met along with Lehigh's representative, Amber. They met with all the mayors and discussed what was going on with like the school district splits and some of those questions that were going on. Some cities are trying to get out ahead half-cocked with just to make a splash. And so they were trying to go through the whole process of what they're trying to do with the state to make sure it's feasible, economically sound, and well thought out. So it was a good meeting. We're lucky to have Jolynn and Julie King representing us in their thought process and the open dialogue that they have. So anything from administration?
Yes, Mayor. We are in the process of doing our insurance renewals for next year, and in order to qualify for both the cybersecurity policy as well as the financial fraud policy, the lovely financial assessment that was implemented by the state auditor, we are required, in order to get these policies at a premium, we would need to implement the steps that would get us below 356 in the risk category. Now, we currently are very close to that, but, I'm sorry, 356. 356. So we're currently like right at 335. It's close, but in order for us to qualify, one of the things would be the required training once every 4 years for all elected and appointed officials to be able to reach that category, as would be some tweaks to our policy. Now, we need to have those policy tweaks in, so we will include those in that you will get at an upcoming council meeting before July 1 that would get us to qualify for all of those things from a policy standpoint. And then it would just require the annual recognition of all employees and elected officials that they had received the policies and procedures manual that included those requirements in it. So with that, we would be able to qualify. Otherwise, it would be about a $20,000 a year increase on our insurance invoices. And so frankly, the insurance, the qualification for those policies, as well as the $20,000 probably justifies taking those few steps, get into the extremely low category. The trust is willing to make some adjustments based on a conversation I had with them earlier this week. You know, for example, line judges and, soccer referees and things of that nature that fall into these categories, since they would have zero financial opportunity for financial or even computer access. So we'll be working on those things. But again, just wanted you to be aware that that's going to be a requirement we're going to need to make in order to qualify on those insurance renewals. But again, that's really all we had. We've had some very productive meetings with the county and with others over the last 2 weeks. And so things are moving forward. And if you have any specific questions on any particular item, feel free to ask, and I'd be happy to tackle that.
Councilman Porter?
It sounds like most of these policy updates are in the cybersecurity realm. Is that just keeping up with current best practices?
It's for the fraud, the fraud risk assessment that we have to turn in with our audit every year. The legislature, Auditor Dougal was the one that was implementing that, and there really weren't any teeth to it. And so the insurance companies have picked up on that and are adding that as a requirement to qualify for that as a non-charged premium on insurance.
I was just interested where these new policies had originated, and I think you answered my question.
It's definitely, I believe, politically driven.
Okay, Councilman Carn?
This is just a grandstand moment.
Okay.
I'm going to jump through all the state hoops, but they make absolutely zero difference, and it's stupid. My opinion.
Would you like an amen,
Oh, it adds to
hallelujah?
us, so it makes a difference in pain. It makes a difference in pain.
I'm going to jump through the hoops to save the money, but it will change no one's behavior, and it's a waste of time. Thank you, state.
And again, requiring every employee and everyone to sign an ethical statement. We're already required to follow the Ethics Act by law, so signing a piece of paper doesn't do anything, but it gets us 5 points on that audit form.
Councilman
And it's
Wilbur?
all related to fraud, right? I would say in the banking industry, there's been a significant, unrelated to this, but it brought up this, there's a significant increase in business email compromise across cities and stuff like that. I don't know if we've looked at that, but if there's specific policies, especially in the finance or other areas, that they don't follow and we lose funds, if that happens at a bank, it's a terminable offense. I'm not suggesting we go out and fire people or anything like that, but as part of the training or whatever, it needs to be reiterated. You break this policy, you might be gone, type of thing on the significant key ones, because it is significantly increased. Signing a piece of paper doesn't do anything, but if you're looking at those policy updates, that's something that needs to be in place.
Thank you. We'll address that.
And I know it's getting more sophisticated with all the chat crap and whatever. You're not getting the misspelling and bad grammar that used to tip you off. for a lot of these frauds. So,
Mayor,
If you would stop sending me the emails about
I'm
discrete.
sorry, guys, I really need help with my email problem. Oh, Michael,
yeah, so mine isn't related to that. I mean, I'm happy to jump through hoops like what Chris said. But I just want to thank staff and UDOT for looking at the traffic signals. It has improved greatly. We haven't had a change in open house attendees or anything. And as soon as they allowed Redwood Road to go longer, the cycle, you'd wait 1, maybe 2. I also noticed that the people coming on Pony Express going towards Redwood Road going eastbound are sometimes having to wait 1 cycle, which is fair since the people on Redwood have to wait 1 or 2. And it's really made a big difference. And I've gotten feedback from residents as well. So I just want to thank people for listening and addressing that. And I know there's some even better opportunities for us as a city moving forward as UDOT continues to work with us. So thank you.
thank you, Michael. If there's no other reports, we'll go on to the public hearing. Is that,
Mr. Quain.
Okay, evening, Mayor and Council. This is the final budget for budget year 23-24. There have been a couple adjustments since last time we met, all in the police department and Bluffdale Police as well. Other than that, there have been no changes since last time we met. Any questions for staff?
okay, there's none. It is a public hearing. We'll open it up for public comment. Please avoid repetitive comments. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Please be respectful in your comments. Please state your name and address for the record. Is anybody here for the public hearing? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. If there's not any comments from the council, I will entertain a motion.
I move to.
Go ahead. All right. I'll move that we approve public hearing item 1 as stated on the agenda, including any findings.
Second.
I have a first from Councilman Wilden, a second from Councilman Carn. Any further discussion? Councilman McComber,
Aye.
Carn,
Aye.
Wilden,
Aye.
Porter.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. I will entertain a motion on the consent items.
So made.
Second.
A first from Councilman Councilman McComber, second Councilman Carn. Roll call, Porter, got too many Carns on here. Porter?
Are you sure?
Yeah, I got 2 of them.
Aye.
Wilden,
Aye.
Carn.
Aye.
McComber.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Business items,
Mayor, we're going to, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. In your packet is the third quarter financial update for fiscal year 2023, so it ended on March 31st of this year. This shows that we are up in our taxes, which we estimated that we would be at this point, but we are down overall in our permits and license, our development revenue, which was also predicted that would happen. So overall, our revenue is more in the general last year this time when compared to the third quarter. And I was just wondering if there's any questions concerning what was in your packet for the update.
there's no questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion.
It's just an update.
What?
It's just an update.
Just an update.
Oh, it is. That's right. Okay, we're good. Thank you. We're moving right along. We will adjourn to the Saratoga Springs Community Development and Renewal Agency, CDRA meeting. Do we have another,
No, because he can adjourn us.
do we have another?
I have it here.
It's on the Dropbox.
Box. I can bring it before you.
Okay.
Board member, please.
Yes. Okay, call to order for the Saratoga Springs Community Development and Renewal Agency. Present tonight, we have Chairman Miller, Vice Chair McComber, Board Member Carn, Board Member Porter, and Board Member Wilden. And Board Member Podeska has been excused. So we do have a quorum. We have a public hearing on the resolution approving the fiscal year 2023-2024 CDRA final budget. This is a public hearing. Is anybody here to comment on that? Okay. Seeing none, I will close the public input and entertain a motion.
I move that we approve Resolution R23-2 dated today.
I have a first from Board Member Porter,
Second?
a second from Board Member Wilden. Any further discussion from the council?
The board.
What? The board. Okay. Roll call. Carn,
Aye.
Wilden,
Aye.
Porter,
Aye.
McComber.
Aye.
Motion.
Vote, too.
Oh, yes, aye. Motion passes unanimously. We will adjourn.
Oh, then we got to do the
Oh,
minutes.
the minutes. I will entertain a motion for the minutes.
Motion to pass the minutes of May 2nd, 2023.
Okay, I have a first from Board Member Porter,
Second?
second from Board Member Wilden. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, wait.
I wasn't there. Do I vote on this?
Yeah.
You vote on minutes.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We will adjourn and return to the city council policy meeting. Work session, sign code.
Mr. Mayor and Council, UTAS planning to do a comparison with the 6 cities, American Fork, Lehigh, Linden, Riverton, Sandy, and South Jordan. It was kind of interesting to go through and see how a lot of cities offered more than we allow, and then some were less, and then some were the same. So it just, depending on which sign it was. Green is they allow more, orange is they allow the same, and red is they allow less than we do. All of the cities allow bigger signs for the wall, or wall signs, building signs. Monument signs, most of them allow bigger. 4 out of 6 of the cities allow larger for single tenant signs for monument signs. And then 2 are smaller. Only one other mentions multi-tenant signs, and it allows larger or more for their smaller signs. Internal directional signs, so like your one that points towards your drive-through, or those ones. 4 out of the 6 cities allow larger, and 1 allows the same height, and then 1 city doesn't have a code on it. And then drive-through menu boards, 3 of the cities don't have any codes on those, and 2 allow smaller signs. Projecting signs, those are the ones like that stick out of the wall that just hang. Like I think Five Below is the only one around that has one. Anyways, 3 out of 6 of the comparison cities allow larger. 1's the same, 1's smaller, and then 1 prohibits them anywhere in the city. Awning or canopy signs, 3 are larger, 2 are smaller, and 1 doesn't have a code. Digital changeable copy, 4 out of 6 of the cities allow larger, 2 smaller. And then, I guess it did walls. Oh, that bottom one's supposed to be window signs. 2 cities allow larger, 1 allows the same, but doesn't require a permit, and 3 cities don't even have a code regulating window signs. And then there's this, and these are very, I don't know, they're very simplified on these. Just to kind of, I don't know if we sent it out like a couple weeks ago, the full breakdown I did that has everybody's code word for word, but this is broken down to where you can just see who allows larger or the same or smaller.
Council, if you are interested in receiving a copy of the side-by-side code comparison.
Yeah.
Personally, I want to keep it at us at the 20,000 foot view, and you guys can figure out how to implement it.
I can't hear.
Oh, you can see it.
Sorry, personally, I would prefer to keep it, the council's input at a 20,000 foot view, and then let staff adjust the code, at their level. I don't necessarily need to see the code.
So we are looking for general feedback and what we will do with that. forward some amendments to a work session before we bring it to policy session, just to allow further discussion.
Okay.
And so what we're seeing you're seeing a whole range depending on the type of sign and things like that. And then you're seeing, a different in percentages. For example, a primary wall sign, you might see 8% here, you might see 10% at another city or 15% at another city. So we're just looking at, we gave you a quick breakdown here tonight. We do have a very detailed breakdown, but what we are looking for is some general direction if you want us to make changes to any particular type of sign or all of it, and then we'll take that feedback and draft up some changes and then bring that to a work session.
Should we go through each sign type?
Sure.
I don't see window on here.
Yeah, we didn't.
It's actually
Sorry.
the last one. It's a typo. This one
Yeah,
that says
I know.
wall is supposed to be window.
Which it says what?
It's the very bottom one that says wall sign is actually
Isn't it
window
the
sign.
I don't have that.
It's on the slide. Oh,
We don't have that. We've got the chart.
All we have is a chart.
Did you put it in the chart?
And it goes wall through digital changeable copy. That's all I have.
yeah, it's not on the chart.
Oh, okay, it must have gotten cut off. We do have window signs, sorry about that.
Okay.
So what we're finding is we have a limit of 20%, and then you'll see a quick outline here that 3 of them don't have any limit, and then 1 has no permit, and then 2 are allowed to be larger, and I believe those ones are 50% that are allowed to be larger. So we do, however, have a large window requirement in Saratoga Springs, and I'm not sure that every city has that. So 50% of our windows will probably result in larger signs than what we're seeing at some of these other cities.
Right. 'Cause they like have a 20% where we have a 50%, right?
Right, so our window requirement is 30 to 35% on the main level, which ends up being, it looks like 50%. So we do end up with large windows, which is attractive until the whole thing is covered with a sign.
Right. Okay.
So on the digital changeable copy, that's like a video board, correct?
That's like fat
Yeah,
cats.
that is a big one. That's been a big topic with our city. So you're seeing, where did it go? So we allow 10% of the sign area. This has come up recently with some of our signs. So 3 of the cities allow 25% of the sign area for the, is that for the monument signs?
It depends, like, that one,
I'm just looking at the digital change copy. The light level shall not exceed 0.3 foot candles over ambient lighting. Is that like the video board that Chris gets a suntan with at night from Lehigh?
That cannot be true.
That cannot be true, because
Because his tan is.
No, the one in Lehigh actually is in one of their, something similar to a planned community zone, so it has some
Okay.
exceptions that are
So
in their
it's got
standard
its own code
code.
over
I'm
there.
picturing
So-
if that's 0.3, we don't want that bright.
No.
Right, and what you're seeing here is standard code. We didn't dive into any planned community.
Okay.
that's where
real-
the
sorry.
comparison with the other
So this is like
breakdown
the
I had
checker,
makes
the
difference.
checker flag,
Yeah.
auto and tune up or
So
whatever.
real quick, Mayor, may I?
Yeah.
So on the digital, I mean, I'm just gonna jump in as we go to the different things and I hear things, I apologize. It is hard but I don't wanna delay this any longer. The digital changeable copy signs, we only allow in the planned community zone. I thought. That was the whole point, that we wouldn't end up with
Currently.
TV monitors all throughout the city. Isn't that correct?
Well, and you're thinking of 2 different things. So digital changeable copy is what you see at gas stations, when numbers change. And then the digital signage is what you see for fat cats.
Oh,
And
so
we
this
do
digital
only
changeable
allow
is
that,
just
right.
This digital
On-
changeable is the gas prices.
Right,
Okay.
so this digital changeable copy is most frequently used at the gas stations for their gas prices.
Right, because I was hearing someone say fat cat, so that confused me. I apologize.
No,
Yeah,
I
and
appreciate the clarification.
we had been hearing that this 10%, we had been hearing feedback that this 10% is small in comparison to other cities.
Yeah,
and
but
we
I
are-
personally do not like the 3-foot numbers in the other cities. In fact, I find it completely obnoxious and it looks quite weird. So I think that, we want to be unique as a city. I personally feel like we've already given a lot and given a lot of ground to businesses. We're allowing tons of signs on the buildings. We're allowing a third side. We even do a fourth if there's a good cause, if there's no residents to see it. We're allowing monument signs outside of a building that has 3 signs on their building. And to be honest with you, it's starting to look very, very cluttered. And I would hate to have it get any more cluttered. If you look at South Jordan, I think they've done a pretty decent job. And if you look at them, they also have more like smaller and than us. There's some larger as well, but they have a lot better. Sandy is as bad as Orem. When you look at Sandy, you go drive through Sandy. I was just there the other day, and it was getting quite distractive and quite horrible. I think it's a public safety issue as well. If you have so many signs in your face, because people are reading them and they're not paying attention to the road, that was the reason why the fat cats was also a concern. So me personally, for my direction, I would not give any more because you can't take it back. As soon as you give it, you'll never get it back. And I think that there's plenty of signs. I mean, Vasa alone, the fact that as huge as that sign is on that building, and that meets code, I think we're doing just fine. That's just my personal opinion.
Sarah, I want to make sure I'm interpreting this right. So on digital changeable copy, that's like a gas station sign, right?
Right.
Okay, so,
Or an open sign, you see that at the teller drive-throughs at banks. that
okay.
you Get at gas stations.
So American Fork, Lehigh with their brightness, Linden
Good sign.
are more restrictive. South Jordan, Riverton, Sandy are less restrictive. Is that, am I looking at that
So
correct?
if it says larger, they allow more than,
Right,
You're talking about illumination though, right?
just on that one illumination only.
Right.
and on the illumination, you gotta take in consideration that they may be not being compliant with what the code says they're supposed to be, like a lot of ours around here. They're brighter than the 1 foot candle or 2 foot candle we allow. So
Yeah.
Do we take a candle on the tape measure?
you have to go
Figure it out.
measure it.
We actually have with some signs, if we've gotten a complaint that they're overly bright, we do have a tool to,
Okay.
the foot candles.
So I'd like to see where we can find a compromise on things like the gas station signs where, like the Maverick is still broken. It's
2 months, 3 months?
2-3 months now, and it's just turning into an eyesore sitting there because those rotating numbers continue to break. And I don't know if.
Well, isn't that their responsibility and we should penalize or fine them for having a broken sign and not fixing it?
I don't know about that.
I mean, technically, we charge other people if they have something broken and they don't get it fixed, they get penalized. Or if something's not meeting, it's not current to code. The thing is they chose to go that because they wanted the bigger numbers. If they would have went a little smaller and they'd done digital, they would have been fine. It's just because they wanted the bigger numbers and then now they don't have bigger numbers. I mean, go drive on 2100 in Lehigh and see the Holiday that's over by 2300 and 2100. If that's what you want, Chris, put that on your campaign because that is horrendously large. That's what Lehigh does, and that's what that larger means.
I
No, I don't know.
mean, I drive that road quite frequently. I haven't noticed it, but I appreciate that other people might find it
Yeah.
horrendous.
So that's Lehigh saying 50%, and that allows for a 3-foot size number?
Right. But other
understand-
cities are at,
And we're at a 1-foot size number?
Right, exactly. Ours is about 1 feet and the other ones are allowing about 3.
So we're 1 feet now without digital at gas stations. Is that what we're saying?
So if it's digital changeable copy based on our max size, you can have about 1 foot.
1 foot letters.
And are none of them like the gas
If it's
stations?
non-digital, they go bigger.
I don't know.
Right.
So like gas station in Lehigh has a 3-foot number. We would
Okay.
have a 1 foot.
Yeah, but we don't allow digital at gas stations right now.
We do, but only up to 1 foot.
Up to
If they
1
use static numbers, they can go bigger than 1 foot.
That's what the new Holiday did. They
Oh.
changed to do the rolling number so they could have bigger on their
They
monument.
just wanted bigger and so they didn't go with digital.
Right.
I mean, for me,
I think the numbers,
admittedly,
Same size
I'm not
across the
looking
board.
at signs while I'm driving,
Right.
unless I'm a passenger, but I think I can read the size fine, but as long as they have a digital option at the 1 foot, I'm okay with that. I don't know. I'm not judging the size very well.
Personally, and this is just my opinion, I don't see the difference between the digital and the non-digital sign.
I
And so
don't
think
unless
that they
they're
should be the
overly
same
bright.
size.
If they're overly bright.
But that's an
I've got a problem.
illumination thing,
Yeah,
right?
that's an illumination thing.
Well, and there are different colors as well. So they're green and red when they're digital.
Which I prefer, so I know which one's the.
And our code restricts
Diesel.
it to green and red right now.
What about?
What was that?
Our code restricts it to green and red right now. Those are the colors
Don't
allowed.
we have blue also for?
Ethanol free.
I've never seen that advertised anywhere.
Mavericks.
It's
you
not
know,
in the code.
crazy.
I mean, so if you look at the Fat Cats one, that's actually an electronic message center. So that's different where it pops up with a picture. So that's a different comparison. That's apples and oranges there.
And again, Fat Cats is in the PC zone, so it's not even in this discussion.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Let's, yeah.
I've said, what I would like to see is just an equality
I mean,
across the board.
I don't see a difference. I think the digital ones are cleaner looking, but I'd have concerns if they're bright,
Right,
like they're too bright.
I agree. So, I mean, they seem to be more, everybody else seems to be at 0.3, which is more restrictive than what we're currently at. What is our current standard, 0.5?
Ours is 1, and
One.
then it's 0.3 if it's pointing to, or is it 2? Anyway, if it's pointing towards residential, then it has to come way down.
Has to come down. I mean, I don't know if this is a compromise.
Residential?
150 feet.
Okay.
I don't know if there's a compromise that's acceptable or not, but, in exchange for letting them have the same size as non-digital, I'm okay with decreasing to the 0.3. That seems to be standard across the industry.
0.7 lower than current.
Yeah. I mean, it's a significant decrease in the brightness, which seems to be the main complaint, is that they're, blinding and giving people tans.
And Chris, I'm actually okay with that. And I think during the day when it's bright, they can have it higher, and then it's at night when it's going to be more. Obviously, during the day it needs to be a little bit brighter so it can be seen, and then at night it lowers to the 0.3, like you're
Right.
saying.
Yeah.
No, that's a
I'm okay
good
with
point.
And I think if it's written like Lehigh's, it can't exceed 0.3 foot candles over the ambient lighting, so they've got to dim it as it gets darker.
And I think too, Mayor, the fact that we have a tool when we send this out, we send this to the gas stations, make it very clear that this is something that will be checked by code enforcement.
So.
Where other cities do break the rule, and I do believe that the Holiday and Lehigh is breaking that rule in terms of brightness. And so I thought the comment earlier by staff that many of the businesses are not following the code in other cities, and I think that is definitely the case there.
So I think,
So I would be okay with that.
because when Maverick did their lighting, they had sensors part of their engineering plan, so I think we would want to see that in their approved plans, that there are, it's not a manual where a guy goes back every 10 minutes and dims it. It's censored.
It's based on sunset, yeah. I think
It's a
that's-
mobile app.
I think I could be with Michael there, if it's part of the approved plan that they've got something in there that's going to keep it at that.
Right. Even if it's just keyed to when sunset is and it
Yeah.
ramps up at sunset.
So, Mayor, you mentioned Lehigh. Is that the direction that the council?
Well, the way they have it worded is that we're at 1 and they're at 0.3 above ambient light. Because I think the problem is we don't want them bright, like getting suntans. Some of us don't have hair on our heads, so. I think,
This side of the table doesn't count.
that 0.3, yeah,
So you're saying
getting voted off the island.
Lehigh language at the 0.3
Yeah, if it's at a 0.3.
At night,
at night.
Well, if it's above ambient, right, that
Yeah,
should shift with the,
midday sun's gonna allow it to be bright enough to be red.
right.
that's right. That's right, Chris, you're right.
So they just gotta show, and I know there's stuff in there that'll do it, it's just gotta be part of the approved plan of the sign.
Okay.
If we could let, it sounds like this is the direction we're going. If we could immediately reach out tomorrow to Holiday, because I know they're ordering their other signs, and if we could catch them before it's too late, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah. And then I think we just want to increase, the other part of that is increasing the size to match the non-digital.
Yeah,
We'll just have one size, period.
Yeah, exactly.
Digital or
Size.
non-digital, same size.
yep.
Okay.
I'm cool with that.
Okay.
So go with the
One down.
sign size.
Did we talk about windows?
No, they told us what it said.
Jump
to the end
the
of it.
windows, if we
Yeah,
require.
we jumped to digital changeables. We can go through any, all,
Can we go back to windows since I brought it up twice now?
yeah, and it is this one down here, even
I'd like to
though,
talk about windows.
great. Let's do it.
Steven and your crap.
He has a record as a window peeper.
What were we? That is not for the minutes. True. Very false at every level. What were we talking about? Windows?
20%.
No, I actually, I get it where if we require much more windows than other cities, that we restrict how much is down or how much is allowable. So I think that should be consistent. I do think requiring huge amounts of windows, that's not sign code, but I think that potentially causes other like issues. And I will say, I don't know how you address it, but the idea that we're regulating potentially blinds, if they shut their blinds and it has a sign, I don't know how to solve that. That just drives me nuts. Like, and I understand it's in code, so that's the job that's being enforced, but that,
So
anyway.
So my
can I get,
problem with the Windows one, if I could real quick, is it's the windows that aren't real windows. They look like a window from the outside, but they really are just a solid wall on the inside. And then they put full end to end, they fill the entire thing with get a haircut or get an iceberg milkshake. That is completely wrong and inappropriate and not it's meeting the desired outcome of what the windows do. The reason why I remember when we went to the more windows is because windows are more energy efficient in the tinting and we allow the tinting. And so it wasn't causing an energy issue like in the past when there was windows. And it does create a much nicer open feel. But we cannot allow, I personally agree that because we allow for more windows, we can increase the percentage because then it's extremely a high amount of window space being covered with advertising. And it totally defeats the entire sign code because their name is all over their window. And now they have 15 names of their business on their building and it makes it messy and cluttered. And then just to know, we didn't include them, but Park City doesn't even allow anything in their window at all. So there is the other extreme. And I don't want to go that far.
That's why I avoid standing by their windows. I'm not supposed to be there. I'm not allowed.
Well, one of the reasons too for the windows is the aesthetics, because we do have a lot of buildings close to Redwood Road, and we have our code written that way, that parking needs to be to the sides and back, and that's to encourage the buildings to be closer to Redwood Road. But without the windows, you don't have that faux front, so then, you know, we're trying to avoid the look of just back walls. And so that is one of the, but then they are filling in the whole thing with signage.
Well, could we just make the windows consistent with whatever, like wall sign or something like that? Like, so they're not circumventing it, but they could use them if there was a sign allowable on that side, that they could use the same parameters consistent of what you would use on a wall sign in the windows?
Oh, and
Oh, yeah.
so they could have one or the other, like instead of a wall sign, they could have a window sign?
Yeah.
That makes sense. That's a good idea, Steven. So they don't have the sign above, it's all illuminated, but they can use their window and have the same square footage requirement on that facade.
Except for a wall sign.
Does everyone like that
Windows
approach?
20%.
Because we can do that. Right now, you would get a wall sign and then say your business had windows facing Redwood Road, so you would get a wall sign and you would get 20% of the window. So but your wall sign can be 8% of the whole facade. So we could do either or if everybody likes that direction.
I don't want them to combine. They shouldn't be able to
but
combine.
I mean, I think to understand, Michael, you're not willing to go up to a 28% wall sign.
No.
No.
So it can't
What
really
I'm
be,
saying is
it's not like a
they
bank you
can't
can,
take their
More sign, we're
8%
just
then do
changing how-
28% of their windows.
right, but so you're saying if they go below on their wall sign, then they can have more window sign? Is that, I'm just trying to
I'm okay
understand
with
how this
that.
would work.
That's what I'm understanding Steven was saying, and
Yeah.
I'm okay with them. If they want to use their wall sign space on their window, fine.
As a percentage.
as a
Are you
percentage.
saying either or we split it and they get both?
You're saying you're capped it on the wall sign at some percentage. And if they don't use all of that, then they can use whatever they don't use.
No, I don't want to have staff having to go out there with tape measures and their laser pen. That's insane. If they want to have 28% on their window, then they cannot have a wall sign and the windows to 28%. If they want to have their wall sign, then they get windows at 20%. That's how I would do it.
Okay.
Right now, they get both, so that would be going more restrictive.
More restrictive.
It's just up to you, though. Give us direction.
Well, it's not more restrictive because they could have 28% of their window space, so they still get that 8% added to their window space.
Yeah,
but they
but
can't
not
have
the
the
wall
wall
sign.
and the window at 28.
They get 28 between the two. You can have 8 as a wall sign, 20 as a window, or 28 as a window and no wall.
Thank you, Mayor.
Is everybody liking that?
What was that?
That makes
Does
sense.
everybody like that?
So
I don't think anyone's going to use it, but we're at least giving them the option.
so are you capping the window then, or is it any combination in between?
No, it's either
No, they can't do a 4%
wall sign at 8
and
and windows at 20, or windows at 28 and no wall sign.
Okay.
right. They can't do they can't do a 4% wall sign and a 24% window. No way.
Again,
That's too complicated.
That's all I was kind of getting for is it's a set, you can have this or
why
this,
anybody would do
not a range in between.
Yeah.
Right. It's not
and
linear.
Is there any way to temporarily, and this is maybe a dumb question, but temporarily call something blinds, temporary signs or something like that? That just drives me crazy if someone has something on their blinds and shut it, then all of a sudden they're violating.
Let me recap what I heard and then we'll come back to that. So I have you can have both 8% wall sign and 20% window sign, or you can have 28% window sign and no wall sign.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay, and so as far as the blinds, right now we just have, if it's like within 12 inches of the, I think it's 12 inches of the window, then it counts as a sign. It's really interesting because it all depends on the blind, you know, because you have roll down and roll up and you have twist open and twist close with different, and you have shutters. So you have all different kinds of blinds. And some of those very much can serve as signs in the same way as just putting on, you know, a pill on film. So it just depends on what your preference is.
I don't think that we should leave loopholes and allow people to take advantage of it.
Well, currently the definition of sign is like anything that draws your attention. So most anything is considered a sign currently.
So right now, if you do have, say you have a roll shade and on the back of the roll shade, you're like, hey, we have fantastic ice cream, then that would count as a sign because it would be within 12 inches of the window. If it's beyond the 12 inches, we don't count it.
Because it's a sign.
What's
That's
that?
a sign. Because it is a sign. I mean, it is. Whether it's a film on the window or it's something printed on the back of a blind, it's still a sign. And it has the name, once again, five times on one side, you have the name of the business. I don't want to use the name of one of the businesses, big offender, because I don't want it on the record. But you guys know some of these big offenders. Because then everyone's just going to go and get blinds and put their signs on their blinds. That's all we're doing then if we do that.
No, let's move on. Unless you got something to say.
I mean, whatever we make the code, they're gonna find ways to advertise their business. I'm not saying that that's a reason why we should allow or disallow. I'm just saying, you know, the reason these blind signs exist is because it's a workaround for code in multiple
But
cities.
it's against our code because we have a 12-inch rule.
Sure. I'm just saying, like, they're gonna keep coming up with new ways to get around whatever we come up with. So, that's not a policy direction, it's just an observation.
Yeah. Well, I'm
Maybe
the
if
one
we
that brought
actually
it up,
fine
so let's
businesses
move
for
on.
breaking the rules.
Since I'm the only one that brought it up, let's just move on, so.
I don't know how to solve it.
You just flip the blinds later.
Are we actually fining businesses right now currently, or have we just been holding off?
So
in
we
various
like
stages of
to
it.
take a tactical approach with our businesses, so we approach them first and let them know they're in violation. Give them a certain
Which is
amount of
good.
time to respond. So we just like to be business friendly in that approach, let them know that there's an issue. So some of them we have, some of them we've approached, and some of them we have given a notice that they're not in compliance.
And I think that's great. We should work with them and communicate. So that's great. Thank you.
And Owen pointed out, Michael, that it's no different than how we treat our residents in trying to help them comply with our code.
Great.
I don't know.
I'm open.
I'm done with windows.
Do you want to go to wall signs?
All right, so what wall or building sign?
Yeah. So on that, the average was like 15% was normal. And then on some cities, it actually allowed all four sides, or you say you had 15 cent for your primary facade, you could actually do that into multiple little signs that equaled up to the 15%, rather than just having to have one. So I
And
don't know what.
Vasa is a good example because they're at the maximum. So that is a good example of what 8% looks like, to give you a visual in our city. And so these other cities, they are allowed to go larger. I don't know how many of them are actually going larger. But we tend to see them split it up. So some of the cities allow larger, but they don't have a limit of just one. Like they might allow two, or they might not even have a number, so they might be able to split that up over, more than one sign in some of the other cities.
So, I mean, given that we are significantly below all of the other cities, I'm willing to examine getting a little bit larger. I don't, however, necessarily want to let them split up. To some extent, there is a cluttering issue. Like, we had a business came in that wanted like 12 signs across their frontage. I don't remember how many it was, but it was a significant number of small signs. I would just rather they consolidate in one or two. I think we allow a primary and a secondary sign.
We allow one primary and two secondary, and
The
then
secondaries are on different facades, though.
they
correct?
are, so we require those to be on a different facade. If it is a multi-tenant building, they do each get a primary, but it's based on the size of their tenant space. So,
Right.
and then, in our city, the secondary sign where it says two at 50%, that's 50% of the primary sign. So if you can, put in a 40 square foot sign on your primary, then on your secondary, you can put in 20 on each of those.
The problem is the way the code's written, it's half of whatever you made your primary sign. So if you are allowed 75 square feet, but you only put in 60, your secondary sign can only be 30, not,
So it encourages them to go full size on their primary.
yeah.
So perhaps decoupling those
I would actually, yeah.
might be better, because then you're likely to get somebody that only uses 75% of the allotment on their primary, but uses the full thing on the secondaries, rather than encouraging them to go full size so that they can get a bigger secondary sign. I think we need to decouple those.
We can, it does get a little tricky because the facades are not the same size. So that does get a little tricky when we formulate things.
Because the
we
sides are
can-
usually smaller because most buildings are rectangles.
Right.
One of the problems I have with going any bigger is Vasa. I can't even imagine Vasa being bigger. Like, I mean, where in our city is there a sign on a building that we feel like, oh, that's surprisingly small and I would like it to be bigger? I don't see that in our city. Walmart's big, Smith's big, Hobby Lobby's big, Ross is big. Where are we wishing they would have had bigger signs? That's we have to look at it from that perspective. So I just don't understand why we would want to allow bigger even.
I think I need to go and look at the buildings.
I keep hearing Vasa. I'm apparently not nearly as observant as some other council members. It's never even blipped on my radar. So, and I understand Councilman McComber's point about, but we've constantly had businesses that would like to be larger, because we've had several businesses come in and say, we can't buy a standard sign from our from the corporate sign providers because it's too small. We need a bigger
But it's so
sign.
funny because they always end up being able to get a sign and meet our code.
No, they just
from
have to
the
do
primary-
it. They
from
have
the
to do it as
primary
a
vendor.
custom, and they have to
But
pay
they're
extra.
from their primary vendor. It's not custom. I asked Costa Vida this because I've heard that, and they were one who asked for larger. They're friends of us, and they said we just say that because then we try and get bigger because we always think bigger is better. But they have options because there are cities in this country that require much stricter sign than we do. Some don't even allow any kind of color. It only can be backlit white.
We could bring you a couple of images of, some of the bigger ones and what those are at, because not everybody's using the full 8%. So we could bring you a couple of images and then we could kind of create what it would look like if they maxed out the code versus if they had more. Why don't we bring you maybe 4 images of some of the bigger ones for you to get a visual of what that might look like?
That'd be helpful.
Hey, outside of the size, right, talking about the secondary signs, I do think there is something to think about, like decoupling it so they don't feel like they need to go full size on the main one to get slightly larger secondary ones. And I know there's some complexity to that, but.
Yeah. The other question I would have on this is, you say that most places in our city aren't utilizing the full 8%. I would be interested if maybe we could reach out to American Fork or Lehigh or just a couple, not everybody on the list, and see are people maxing out this
Well,
15 and 10%?
Are actually, it's just some of the bigger ones that aren't. So most are. using
Okay, so it's the big boxes that are under.
Right.
But most of the smaller strip mall stuff is using its full. allotment.
Yeah, most of them are hitting that 8%. They're getting as big.
Okay.
Yeah, so all of the ones we've approved recently, I think, are hitting that.
They're pretty close.
Yeah. or
One
pretty
thing
close.
you can do on the secondary to decouple it is just say a maximum of 4%. And then
Yeah.
if they want it to be 3, and if they want to use the whole 4, then they're going to do 8 and 4 anyway.
We
So
could
then
do
it's just
that.
decoupling it.
That might actually, so because the side elevation a lot of times couldn't be much smaller, in some situations it's actually bigger depending on the shape of the building. So it does some different things to the side. It might make it actually bigger than the primary in some instances, or actually really small in other instances.
Well, for example, Zupa's is narrow in the front. It's got a really long side that's exposed. They maybe wanted to put their bigger sign on the side that's facing Redwood Road on the side of the building, but because of our code, they had to put their biggest one on the front.
Yeah, so we could do that. We could look at some. We'll take a look at that, how we can address the secondary signage differently.
Well, maybe it's just 8% on one facade, and then if you have 2 additional facades, it's up to 4%. Then you're decoupling it, and then you're also allowing them the freedom to decide where they want their big sign, because some of them might want it on the side. Just a thought, like giving the businesses the ability to choose where they want their big sign.
That sounds great.
Yeah, I like that. He's like, if it's on the side versus the front, the big one, I don't particularly care.
And that's where they feel it's going to give them the biggest bang, right? Yeah.
Yep. No, I think that's a good suggestion, 8 and 4, whatever.
It's easier than Windows.
Can we talk about Windows?
We're just taking a break on Windows. We'll be back.
Keep talking, never mind, I'm not gonna announce that.
Monument signs? Is that where we're at?
Yep.
Can somebody maybe help me understand what the purpose is having a monument sign 40 feet from the signs on the building, why they need that? Because I thought monuments were for the buildings behind that are blocked. So like Ross is blocked by by Chili's and stuff. So you had a monument that shows the stores that are back behind. And I'm back in North Carolina, and it makes a lot more sense because they have a hell of a lot more trees than we do. And so you can't even see the buildings from the road. And so they have a monument with the names of the businesses that are back behind the trees because you can't see it.
All right.
We don't have that problem. I don't understand why Chili's has to have a sign literally on the other side of the parking lot 100 feet from their big sign on their building. So maybe someone just help me understand why we have to even allow these monument signs for small instead of just the big ones that allow for multiple tenant.
You're saying why are single tenant signs even allowed?
Why do we even allow that? Because it's just a fourth sign and it's so close to the other and it looks really cluttered. You go down in front of, because where Smith's was, they didn't do it. All those businesses didn't do it, but then all of a sudden we get one business down and all of a sudden monument signs everywhere. Little ones, Habit Burger, Wells Fargo, all within 50 feet, 100 feet of their actual signs on their buildings. So I just don't understand the need. I definitely like the idea of a monument, the big ones that allow for the tenants that are back and behind. That makes complete sense to me.
I don't do other city. I'm looking through and it's hard. It's not really broken down between single and multiple monument signs.
All
Do
of
other
them
cities?
allow single tenant?
All of them allow single tenant.
If you have a 300-foot building, you could have three separate monument signs. Is that what that's saying?
A 300-foot frontage.
Street
Frontage.
frontage.
Right, but if you had
Yes.
three buildings stacked together, like we have with Zupas and Wells Fargo, you could have a sign for Zupas, another sign for Wells Fargo, another sign for, I'm not saying those, but just for every 100 feet, you can have another monument.
Right.
To me, you guys, this is getting so cluttered. And that's the whole point of this is we did not want to look like Orem and Sandy. And here we are just getting cluttered. But I'm not going to fall on a sword on this one. I just literally have the question, like, why do we even allow it?
Right.
No, I think it's a legit question.
Go ahead.
I've got a question on that. So this all affects Title 19, but everywhere we're talking about in future commercial development, it's all going to fall in PC. Is that going to be different?
Right. Yeah, because they're going to write their own code.
Because they have their own code.
Yeah.
Some of those, most of those are defaulting to city code. We've made 4 exceptions.
Okay.
Yeah, so we had to make exceptions,
This
Chris.
is the
when
baseline.
The Fat Cats,
Yeah, the
because
movie
they
sign.
follow Title 19 for code within the PC zone. What I would almost rather, honestly, is not allow these single monuments and allow more bigger and more of the big at the main entrances to our developments for the bigger tenants that are back behind that are lost, especially the fact that Redwood Road is lower and it goes up high. I mean, look how high Olive Garden is, right? You can't even see some of the businesses back in behind, but Olive Garden gets on Redwood Road and the burger place in the back that you can't even see. And these other businesses, you don't even know they're there because you can't see them because Olive Garden is so high up on that hill.
And
So I would almost rather allow a monument taller that says, here's the businesses that you might want to check out behind.
So Michael, you're saying allow for larger multi-tenant signage?
At the main
monument signage?
entrances to the roads, right? Like at Market Street and some of these big roads. Yeah, that's sort of my thought.
and that was
is
kind of my
to
question,
allow
is like
people to know.
how we define like a single tenant versus a multi-tenant. Because like, sure, Chili's is the only one in their building, but I mean, that's all one development. Is Chili's and Habit and Tide and Hobby Lobby and
Right.
Ross are all.
So Habit has their own sign, and then Wells Fargo and I think the dry cleaner split a sign.
I'm used to seeing in other places a large sign with everybody in the shopping center.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The
As
big ones at
opposed
the
to-
top, and they get smaller, right? That's
And
what
so
I'm used to
That's
seeing
almost
too.
seems to be how we define a tenant as opposed to. Because right now, what is it like if they have contiguous walls, it becomes a multi-tenant?
Well, the multi-tenant is just they want to put more than one person or more than one business on the sign. Doesn't
But-
matter if the building.
Multi-tenant sign, not
'cause I mean-
multi-tenant.
Yeah,
just the
it
sign.
makes sense for, Wing Mortuary to have their own sign because they're their own property, right? But the Boyer
But Chris,
property
go ahead.
has 24 tenants, so why don't we just have a sign with 24 tenants on it as opposed to everybody 24 monument signs or,
Exactly what I'm saying.
yeah.
Exactly. And Boyer.
If in
can say,
exchange
hey,
they get a
we're
little bit
gonna
more
give-
space to advertise.
We're gonna
it.
give,
That's good.
yeah, we're gonna give preference to the businesses that are back off of Redwood Road. They get the top And then the smaller ones, which is literally putting a sign right next to the building that's on the road, would be a smaller one. You know what I mean? But exactly what I'm getting at. And then it's cleaner. It's a single location. You can see it when you're pulling into the development. You're like, oh, there's a burger place back here, Apollo. I didn't even know it.
One
You
of
know.
the challenges we face is we can't regulate content, so we can't tell them who to put on the
Right.
sign.
I think that has
No,
to
no,
be-
I'm saying Boyer can though. Boyer can
Sure.
lease the space at the top to their certain tenants, like Ross and Hobby Lobby can get the bigger, and then they work their way down. But I just think it makes sense to get rid of the single tenant signs. I mean, we already have the ones. We can't get rid of the ones that are there. But like when you drive along, like why do you need to see Wells Fargo literally 50 feet from another the Wells Fargo sign?
So I don't disagree with that. I have a question. If you just have main multi-tenant signs at the main entrances, then do you then allow directional signage within the complex?
That's the next one.
Well, part of the challenge is so it would be
Skip ahead.
great to say we want a multi-tenant sign and that would include all the tenants, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's how it will turn out. Because we might say you can't have a single tenant sign, you can have a multi-tenant sign, and they might put 2 on there. Because we can't make them put all of them on
You
there.
can't
No.
tell the
Right.
developer
And
to
Boyer
make
can
a sign with
that call,
30
or
spots
whoever's
on it.
developing can
Right.
make that call.
Right.
I mean, that
Yeah.
occasionally will happen is Hobby Lobby wants to buy 2 slots. And so they'll have a bigger sign than Ross.
All I'm trying to do, anything you prefer is just fine. All I'm trying to do is just point out some of the nuances.
Right.
I agree.
That if we take out, we can totally take out single tenant sign if that's your preference, but with multi-tenant, it doesn't mean that all the tenants are gonna end up
Right.
on the sign.
I
And
think
do they really need to be on there? If if they have their sign right on Redwood Road, do they even need to be on? That's where Boyer can make that call and say, we're going to give a preference to every business that you can't see from the road, and they can do that as a private business. We're not telling them to do that. We just say you can have multi-tenant sign at the entrances, and even
Right.
make it a little bit bigger.
I just want to be careful that we're not then prohibiting, I'm trying to think of a single, the Saratoga Horse Hospital or whatever it is down there, from being able to have a monument sign as a single tenant.
Yeah.
I want to make sure, I want to make sure that these multi-tenant developments are being pushed towards multi-tenant signs, but we still provide an opportunity for somebody who is a single
That's true.
business.
Well, and those look horrible when they have empty spaces too. If you
Right.
don't fill that all up, it looks worse than a single monument sign along the road.
But a single tenant on a lot like the horse property doesn't need a monument sign because they're the only one. They're not trying to like help people understand there's multiple people here. It's just one. So that's why they don't have it, because they technically could have had it, but they chose not to put one because they don't need it.
Right, but Holiday Oil has a monument sign which they use for their gas, isn't that their gas?
Yes,
What
they
they
have
put
2
their
of them.
gases on their monument signs?
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, you don't want to have Holiday Oil go into a multi-gas station development in order to.
We're thinking about these big developments, but we're not.
Right,
thinking
yeah,
about
we're only thinking about Boyer, we need
standalones,
to
right.
make sure that we're also addressing.
But that's a monument sign, digital changeable copy for gas stations.
Yeah, but
It's
we're getting
different
rid of
than the
that.
monument sign.
Yeah, but take gas stations out of it. Say,
Pain orthodontics or whatever, that's a multi-tenant too, but I'm trying to think of, there's examples of some businesses.
right,
Like I said, in Wheaton Mortuary, they have a monument sign out. Sprinkler World has a monument sign out.
right.
Bank of American Fork right here.
Bank of American Fork, so I want to make sure that we're addressing both.
American First Credit Union's got a monument sign.
Well,
both
but
issues.
again, they're right on Redwood. Do they need the monument with their building like literally 50 feet away? What we're saying is you're fine. You've got your business. You've got the name on 3 walls of your business. You don't need a 4th sign 5 feet off the road. That's just all I'm saying. But if you guys want to keep it, I'm not. That's fine.
Do you have enough direction to give us some options to look at?
I didn't really perceive distinct direction.
And with all due respect,
Sarah,
this
on-
one, you got nothing right now.
Well, on this one, Mark, we've got our capital facilities tour we're gonna be
shot.
out. Maybe could we stop and just look at some signs to visualize this? I mean, we can sit here, like I agree with Michael, you got a sign right below a sign, one's monument, one's on the wall. That's excessive, probably. right next to each other. So I get where Councilman McComber's coming from. I'm just thinking, we're already going, could we maybe hit a couple different sign options?
You bet. One of the things that my observation is that we keep going back to basically what's planned community zone with Boyer. And again, I'm trying to think of good examples outside of that.
Can we put planned community, require the multi-tenant, get rid of the single family?
I just
That
pulled
zone?
one, so here's Wendy's, they,
Single
they
monument.
have, and then they have, so we do see our businesses utilizing that, and we do have a lot of single tenant businesses. Taco Bell, they didn't put, I don't think they put in a monument.
They don't.
Yeah, so and then when you had this direction, you have a variety as well. So you have Mountain America. So when this is now saying Vasa at the top, and then you have a handful of tenants there. And then you can see that that's larger. So the size for a multi-tenant sign is larger. And then, sorry, I'm trying to go down the road more.
Tell when they
you
came
don't-
through.
Yeah, you don't see that utilized through this stretch here. When you get, you can see Del Taco, McDonald's, but you can also see they kind of vary in size. And then Walgreens has one on both streets. So we have a variety going on as far as multi-tenant and single-tenant along the arterial roadways.
I'm just wondering if maybe in planned community, we eliminate the,
Master plan commercial zones.
yeah, we eliminate the single tenant sign. And then I think that kind of addresses the two issues we're facing, right? Is it allows outside of that for people to continue to do what they've been doing and seems to be working all right. And then, but in these master plan commercial communities, the
The multi-business
multi-tenant
communities.
ones
Yeah,
that they could, they could have one sign, but
Larger.
to either more or larger signs so that they can advertise at all of their entrances or whatever.
Here's another example. So you can see Zion's Bank has one here, and then Walmart has a multi-tenant sign, but they have 3 of them on there. That's kind of what we were saying, is just because you have a multi-tenant sign doesn't mean
It's gonna fill up.
So can I
Right.
throw some heresy out there? And you guys can shoot me and tell me to not stop making
Careful to
suggestions.
say that.
I guess my question is like for a business that is like, say, on the main road itself, would you allow for, instead of the monument sign, maybe an additional sign on the building? That would be the equivalent square foot, so we're not necessarily taking something away from them because they're close to the road, but get rid of the single monument signs in those cases. So it's the same amount of square footage, if you would, but get rid of the single tenant monument signs, but then allow them to have a little extra signage on the building or
On a
something.
major arterial.
Like a
up to
fourth
10%.
wall.
Yeah, or something like that, just so that they're not being taken away from, but we're removing the necessity for more of those monument signs. Is that a compromise that would be of interest?
I'm okay with that, some sort of compensation.
Like a third, secondary.
I actually am
sign.
okay with just having a 4th sign. So instead of being 1 primary, no matter what wall, and then 3 secondary.
And do we allow this in our gateway overlay?
We do. So in our gateway overlay, the signage is the same, except that we require uniformity. So their signs need to be
Match each other.
matching. So here's a multi-tenant sign, near a Subway, and then you also see a single monument sign, and then you do actually kind of see an example of how windows end up getting filled up.
15 names.
Go back to that.
I know, I showed it really quickly. Okay, so is there a general perception that the monument signs, that the single tenant monument signs are causing sign clutter
In the planned community zone, I think.
Well, in the planned community zone, we have the same requirement as the rest of the city.
Right, and we're saying change that. Push them more towards multi-tenant signs.
Now,
But compensate them with a larger sign on.
We're allowing them a 4th
So
sign,
the
maybe not a larger
multi-tenant
sign
signs
on the
already
building, but a
get to
4th.
be larger, so the code does already allow those to be larger.
The multi-tenant.
I don't think
But the
we'll
one on
have
the building,
a good street view of that area at this point in time.
It's not available yet.
Because
I've
it's so
looked.
new. I don't think it's going to show up on here.
Still a dirt field.
We can try. Let's give it a try.
So if you look at those as a safety thing, though, if you have a monument sign as you're driving down the road, you see the businesses, you're not turning your head, trying to see what's in at each place, whether it's a single or a multi-tenant. I mean,
So do you feel like we've covered monuments enough?
You're doing what I did. You're saying that we've covered it and we still haven't come to a consensus.
Well,
I think.
I don't know that we've come to
Here, I'm getting
consensus.
to, this area here is in the planned community. So, we have a, what do you call it?
feature?
Yeah, just a, kind of like a neighborhood sign, right? And then,
A lot of
well,
leasing signs.
I'm gonna get there some more to see if we can still get good imagery.
might be before that.
So you can see a couple
One,
of,
two,
they
three,
do
four.
have,
Yep.
so they have a multi-tenant sign here, and then you're seeing, they're not filled in yet, but you're seeing several, but these are also multi-tenant signs, so.
Except for Chili's. I think Chili's is the only single.
Those are also entitled right now.
Right. So if you change it, everybody's gonna say, well, they got it, why can't we? And I'm not saying you shouldn't, I'm just, we'll definitely hear, well, they got it, why can't we?
Well, and again, PC zone is, I mean,
Unique.
unique. But going forward, if that's a practice you want us to stop, then we can certainly come with that code amendment.
Yeah.
I would mind if you guys looked into it and see what the feasibility is. And then I like, Mark, your idea of maybe giving them another sign on the building or doing something to compensate. That, I have no problem with that. It's just
So-
not on the same facade, just maybe on the fourth facade or something like that.
Okay, is that a consensus to look at it that way? So either a monument sign or a fourth wall sign?
Yeah, look at it and bring a recommendation.
Yeah.
And then, okay, that's
Multi-spider.
the direction we should look at? Okay.
And that's just in.
Internal directional signs. Exciting.
No, that was everywhere, right?
Okay.
That was citywide, to look at either a monument sign or a fourth wall sign?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I guess so, yeah. What?
Okay,
So your internal directional signs are just your one pointing you to the drive-through,
Right.
or your in and out and stuff like that. So
Well,
we have the smallest.
So those are only for pointing, like, it's not inside the development to say Hobby Lobby's this way and,
No, it's got to be 10 feet from a driveway or
okay.
something like that. So
I don't have a problem
ours
with
is
those.
3 feet high and 3 square foot on the sign, and it has to be a monument pedestal. We wanted to change the code and make it, you could allow a pole sign as long as your pole was like 6 inches around or something, because a monument pedestal, that's just, I think, overkill. But
Right.
most of them are 4 feet or taller. Some of them were up to 6 feet, which I thought was a little big.
And if you're like Wendy's, you have the big bollard that just everyone hits with their car and it's covered with paint from people's cars.
I've never heard of it.
No, I had a real problem with this one. I think that it's good to let people know this is where the drive-through is. I don't have a problem.
trying to find some.
Do we allow for internal wayfinding signs within a development?
That's what they are. Yeah, that's what those are.
Well, I'm saying like,
Have to be by an entrance.
Oh,
or a
wayfinding?
drive-through. That's it.
Yeah,
We don't
like,
do
uh,
another
like-
business. You can't say
So,
Hobby Lobby
I think
on
what
the
Chris is
other
getting at
development
is
from Smith's.
If
We
we
don't
get
allow
rid,
that,
if we,
Chris.
if we only have multi-tenant signs,
once you're
someone pulls
inside,
into a complex, we don't allow for signage to say,
Ross is this way and
over
Smith is
here,
this way.
yeah.
Yard sale this way.
Like, for example, Chris, we don't allow you to be in front of Smith's and have a sign that says Ross is in this other parking lot. We don't do that.
Right.
We don't have that now.
And we don't allow it. And that,
I don't know if we
I don't
want
know.
to.
I don't know.
I don't think
yeah.
we want to open that.
None of our current developments need it, and I think anything that does is probably gonna be in plan community. and
Your
they can
sign that
just-
says Hobby Lobby
So
on
an
the outside.
internal intersection, so it could happen at one of the stop signs.
Yeah, internal intersection's a good.
Yeah,
a good
so
way
we
to-
can do that right now.
They can?
They could if they wanted to.
Okay,
Okay.
then we're good.
We're good.
So are you good on the size?
Yeah.
Yep.
Are we good pushing for maybe having a pole sign as well? As long as we have a 6-inch pole?
Yeah.
Sure.
The poles are just going to get run over. That's okay.
Hopefully they're up out of the roadway.
Just by the main.
I mean, literally, next time he goes to Wendy's, you'll see it. It's hilarious. It's like more cars hit it than don't, it seems like. Because everyone tries to come in from Redwood Road and do a U-turn into the
Yep.
park, into the driveway, I mean, to the drive-through instead of going up through Taco Bell.
It's
And then,
miserable getting into
That's
it.
why.
That-
because we made it angled parking. This is my
Hopefully
fault
that
years ago.
gets addressed
I
with
screwed up on
Lake
that.
Road and the development to the south a little bit.
The light road, what is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
State Liquor Store Road.
Okay. Next.
Drive-through menu boards, we currently allow the 45 square foot and one 10 square foot sign per drive-through lane.
So there's really cities that don't address this at all. They can do whatever they want.
It looks like most cities.
Yeah.
We had, when we had the guy come in the other day and we said, can you do it? He said, yes. So I think we could just leave this one. Seemed like it wasn't that big of a deal. Because I think, Chris, you, Porter, you actually asked him, remember, or someone did. Like, is this something that you can do? And he said, yes.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah, he reconfigured his sign, it in today. I had to kick it back for some issue with the signature.
I mean, it's
was
a
Habit,
lot. Like, if
wasn't
you go to Habit Burger, it's a
Yeah, the
lot
Habit
of
one,
signage. It's-
and he made it fit it. It
Yeah.
was two smaller ones that were 5 square feet each next to each other, so it was the 10 square foot sign.
okay,
All right.
that works.
Projecting the suspended are the ones, it's that thing that sticks out from, that hangs from the wall or drops down, kind of like I said, I think Five Below is the only one that has one.
Is this like Lehigh Main Street? Kind of
I want to
like,
keep this for our Main
They can
Street, you
stick
guys.
out
We need
like
to have
5
these
feet from the
signs.
wall.
It is kind of like, yeah, it, like if you, it's more for if you're walking.
but it's
So-
it's perpendicular to the
Right,
face
it's
of
coming
this.
out of the, right, it's perpendicular to the
So when
face
you're
of the
walking
wall,
down the
so.
aisle, you see business.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to encourage this. I think it's,
On a Main Street?
yeah. I
Well,
think
it's charming. This is charming signage.
right,
Yeah.
This is what?
charming
Oh,
signage.
Yeah,
And
okay.
I think our
well-
size on this is pretty good. It's pretty big, like, for those kinds of signs.
What is our max area is 12? What are the other people?
Do you recall?
The trick is if
Most
you
of
get too
them-
big, they have to
3 of
go
them were
high
bigger,
because of
that's
you
all
have
I
to have
remember.
a 7 or 8 foot clearance for people to walk.
So we just, so we allow, so 5 feet, up to 5 feet projecting from the wall, but 12 square feet max. So that's not too large. You need 8 feet underneath, and then 3 out of the 6 cities allowed larger ones. And then one's the same. We'd have to look at exactly how much larger.
I think it was like 15.
And then one
square
was
feet
smaller.
average.
I think we're sort of in the middle.
Okay. So if
When we do
we're-
our main street, we might be able to get more clarity from the companies coming in, and we can always address it then.
12,
Right.
12 is decent, though. I mean, 3 by 4, you know? So for a sign that's more of a pedestrian,
Yeah. I mean, we haven't, I think to Councilmember Converse point, until somebody comes in and says, you know, this is what we want or need or whatever, and we can look at it in a real world situation, it's pointless to kind of guess what we want it to look like.
Yep.
Awning and canopy signs.
Awning and canopy, so that can be either sticking, attached to your building, sticking out, and you have your signs, like a hospital might
Is this
have
like
it.
meters? Oh, okay, so even like on the emergency room
Or
or something like.
Detached canopy is your gas station.
Okay.
and we are seeing more and more businesses, because you know how they have employees standing outside taking menus? We are seeing more businesses putting in canopies for those purposes. So you see the detached canopy maybe at gas stations. There's one at the new Chick-fil-A, and then we had another business put in one. It might have been, it's a burger place, I think, and it's attached.
Zupas just did it.
Oh, Zupas, sorry, not a burger place. So
Over that.
Zupas did it. So we're seeing more awnings coming, but those are the different situations. So some are attached to buildings and some are detached, and then you have gas station canopies. Allowing, so on a gas station, we don't limit that right now, so it could be on any side of that canopy, but the ones, at least at fast food, so far, we're not seeing any signage on those. It's just for their employees to have shade.
Okay.
But we don't say you can't have signage, so
They could if they wanted.
Does like Del Taco have
it's
one?
kind of a new thing, you know,
Del Taco have an
where,
awning now?
I think we need to get ahead. I think we need to get ahead of this and not say you don't allow additional signage on these versus your building. You can have it on the awning or on the building.
so we do say that right now, but we don't say that for gas station canopies. So on gas stations, they have both.
So on the awning, you're allowed.
And you
to
know what, real
take
quick,
one
on gas stations, I think that's not a problem if they want to have it on their awning and their building, honest.
I mean, I think we need to
Look at Maverick, look at them all in the other cities, and it's not ugly. That's not annoying.
No.
And so we're trying to find the balance, and I would agree that having their name on the awning on two sides or something like that, and then their facade in the front of their building seems fair.
So if you look at
We
cost-
limit it to what, 20% of the awning canopy?
I like how
I'm okay.
calls out gas station island canopies separate from canopies.
We can do that. That's a good idea.
What was that?
Because really,
Call
the gas
out gas
station, it makes
station
sense
canopies
because it's out towards the
Be like
road and
Times
it gives
Square.
them, and then
That'd
then
be
they
cool.
wouldn't need their monument sign
Monument sign.
because now they have it on their awning right by the road, right? So it'll help them.
I prefer they don't.
So Costco, Smith's, and the Chevron, they have them on all four sides.
Okay,
Like
so, right now, the gas canopies have signs on all four sides. They're not very big. Is that the direction you want to
That's
stick
fine.
with?
I don't care.
That's fine.
Okay,
Why do they need it facing the store?
says
I
like
guess
on tax-
Costco doesn't have
They
it
want to
facing
waste
the
their money, go
For
for it.
Well, you know, like, yeah, I mean, Costco's kind of out there and
Yeah.
Walmart could be out
And,
there.
and if they want to pay the money for
Way
it, go
out
for it.
there.
I don't think it's ugly. Gas stations are already ugly. What's another sign on their awning?
We want to, you're wanting to prohibit it on like Chick-fil-A can't put Chick-fil-A on the edge of their awning?
I don't have a problem if they do.
I don't think we want to open that can.
right now, we say you can do it
Well,
on your
currently
wall
it's open.
or your canopy. Yeah, so right now, we say you can do it on your wall or,
If it's attached, you
if
lose
it's
one-
So they
attached
could choose,
canopy.
right?
lose
It's
one
wall
secondary
or
sign, you can
canopy,
put it
right?
on Canopy and.
Oh, okay. If it's attached.
Yeah,
Like gas
if it's
stations
detached, then it's
separate
just.
from-
This is why the
So-
mayor
Right,
said,
yeah, yeah,
let's
Just,
separate the two.
just as a quick reminder, content, you know, we can't limit
Regulate.
content. We can't regulate for content, so just
But
keep that in
I
mind.
like Mayor, he said, let's uncouple them, right? Let's make it so that there's awning and canopy, right? And then so the awning for the canopy for the gas stations can have it on all four sides. The awning or whatever for the shade for like a Chick-fil-A, they can have it on the building or on their,
Or on the awning.
That's
on
how it
them.
is. It's like that.
That's
Yeah.
current, so, okay. That's fine.
Clarified a little more, but yeah.
Window sign.
because they really are very different. I think it's important that they're separate.
Very different business models.
Yeah,
So
and very different structures.
I think we made it through the whole list.
can I ask this real quick, like temporary signs, like I would hate for some new business that's opening up if we throw out a now hiring sign, oh, we gotta take this down. Like, where do we, I mean, that's
We get that
nonsense.
built into the new business packet? Is that-
Right.
Yeah, we talked about
We
that.
will. We talked about that before and we have that on our list, so we'll be sure to get that in. This will take us some time, so.
Well, and
But-
even businesses that are new that have temporary gas signs like Holiday's done. Again, we just need to work with businesses, to Stephen's point. So as you're working on that business package, delays, China delays, delivery delays, people aren't getting the signs as fast as they would like. We need to work with them and allow them temporary signs for longer than maybe our allowable code. I will
Okay.
say that I was very impressed with Holiday that at their 17th day, they took their flags down off of their light posts onto their building, and they were good partners with the city, and we should also be good partners with them and other businesses as well.
So, yeah, and I like that on the new business and just thinking, I know you can't regulate content, right? But like if an existing business like Costco put a sign out, a small sign that said now hiring, I wouldn't be offended when we're heading into a recessionary period, right? Like, we don't want to discourage that type of thing. I don't know how you address that.
That one is a tricky topic because we can't say you can have any number of now hiring signs because that's regulating to
Yeah,
event. So
yeah, I just.
Tricky.
Yeah.
But if Costco puts out a non-hiring, I mean, if they put out a now hiring sign and we go and take it down, we got a problem.
So the problem what we have is content.
I understand, so that's what I like, I'm not saying don't put in the code now hiring, because we can't do that.
We could
But we just
allow
need to be thought.
temporary signs to occur more often. Right now, they get to occur 30 days within a calendar year. We could allow them to occur more often.
Just whatever you guys think.
Bring back a recommendation.
I know you can't regulate now hiring. I'm just using that as an example, like,
Okay, we'll propose to allow them more frequently and we'll see how you like that.
okay, because I just, you know, like an announcement type of thing. Hey, bananas are a great deal. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. But
Chicken
Stephen, I'm with
sandwich.
you, but then you're gonna end up with a whole bunch of buy two, get one free and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I know. I don't have the right answer, but my point is like,
I mean, if they apply for their temporary sign.
let's, if
And
we
if they
can
really are
find some.
putting a now hiring and they're not using, ZipRecruiter, they're idiots, right? I mean, these kids today aren't looking at a sign, they're looking at ZipRecruiter. But yeah, I get where you're going though.
So, okay, I think we've got the feedback we need. We'll work on this and bring it back to you.
Hey guys, thanks for working with me. This is important to me and allowing me to do it digitally, and I felt like I was able to be heard. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay.
We do have need for a closed session.
Okay.
Move to close?
Second.
Closed session. Oh, yes. Okay. First from Karn, second from Wilden. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. What? I know, I was thinking he was closing the meeting. I was like,
Sorry, I jumped the gun on you. Closed session.
I thought you were closing the meeting. I'm like, I'm loving this.
Mayor and council, do you need to take a quick recess while you're?
Wilden probably does.
Okay.
No, I got a band. I need to get
Wilden
to-
recess.
Half an hour, don't you?
What?
I gotta go to a kid's band.